Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. That's Joe Smith. This is the Paddock Podcast. Joe, I've not seen you for about 4 days.
I actually haven't seen you since Wednesday.
It's like dog years. If me and you don't see each other for a day, it feels like a month because we're constantly on videos together and chatting to each other and all the rest of it. How have you been, brother?
I've been really good. I mean, United are not winning every game anymore, which is a shame. But we think there might be some mitigating circumstances.
Mitigating circumstances, Your Honour.
We've got a list here that we're going to go through of controversial, unfair, potential, just decisions and VAR refereeing decisions that we believe are worth analysis. Right. And maybe some sort of factors that could have played a role in why Manchester United seem to be getting, even if some of them are 50-50s, not all of them are absolute stonewall errors, but the ones where you go, you see that given, they're not being given. Or you go, that don't always get given, it is being given, Jay. Something's going on here.
Right, okay, I like this.
And to ask you the same question back, how are you?
Yeah, I'm struggling to muster the outrage. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like relatively philosophical about the draw against Southampton. Whilst it's deflating and annoying and all that stuff, do get involved in the chat and the comments and let us know what you think about the game against Southampton, about the way Manchester United are being treated by the referees, about VAR, about anything. I just feel that, you know, drawing at home in the league, our second league draw, I think, after so many wins, I believe, since the Brighton loss, it's not that deep. It's a bit annoying, but I can sort of take it because I feel like we've been on the right path now, the Scousers game aside, for quite some time.
Can I ask you a question, Jay?
By all means.
Based on what you just said. Do you work for PGMOL? Do you work for the Professional Game Match Officials Board? Because you seem to be in bed with the referees, with the card wielders of this world. Yeah?
Yes.
How's that happened? You've got VAR at home, haven't you?
I have got VAR.
You've instilled it to make your children brush their teeth.
Do you know what? My kids think there's cameras in our house.
There is.
You tell them. I always say, I think my eldest has got onto it now because she's 12. She's, you know,
smart.
She's a bit more savvy. But my lad, I always say to him, do I have to go and check them cameras? Have you brushed your teeth? Yeah. Have you? Do I have to go and check the cameras? All right, I haven't. Go on then. I'm wondering when he's going to realise there's no cameras in his house. And if there is, you're very weird putting cameras in the bathroom.
Hopefully he realises there are no cameras.
Absolute wrong-un. Let me just ring social services.
Hopefully he realises there are no cameras before his sort of mental health is permanently...
or before he goes into school and tells the teachers, my daddy has cameras in our bathroom. Yeah. What?
We had a sleepover and Daddy was watching the cameras.
Yeah, Daddy was watching me and my friends in our sleepover on his cameras.
Yeah.
What? Right, okay.
Let's hope that they sort of understand that that's not true. Yeah. Before too long.
In fact, I think I'm just going to message my missus now and tell her to tell them something quickly.
Turn the cameras off.
Yes. We've been rumbled. It's all my own fault. I said it live on a video.
But I want to go through some situations here that United have experienced and faced this season. And I want your take and I want people's take at home on whether these instances were right or wrong. And we'll get to them.
Right-uns or wrong-uns?
Right-uns or wrong-uns.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to it in just a second. But before we carry on, this show is brought to you by Beer 52. We'll be hearing from them in just a few minutes. But thank you to Beer 52 for sponsoring the show. Right. First things first.
Always the best way.
I've always seen it as the best way because I've tried doing second things first, and then you go, I've done the second. Oh, what's the first thing? Because you can't just do second things first and then first things first as well. If you do second things first, you now have to do first things second. So two things are out of order. Manchester United 0, Real Sociedad 1. One of our only, I think, 2 home defeats this season. We saw a 1-0 defeat. Which was, I would say, I mean, not handed to, but certainly aided by their goal being scored from a penalty. Now, for anyone who doesn't remember, this was Lisandro Martinez sprinting out to close down a David Silva shot that was inside the box. He sort of dived out in traditional, I'm trying to block this, sticking his foot out, turning away from it fashion. The ball then strikes him in the knee or in the leg, and bounces up and hits his hand, which is in this sort of position as it would be because he's diving out. The rules are, if the ball hits another part of the body first, then it cannot be a penalty, which was reminded to us we were reminded of that rule this morning when Dermot Gallagher on Sky Sports was defending the handball that wasn't given yesterday against United by saying, well, I think it hits his chest first anyway, which means it's not a penalty. This ball clearly hit Martinez on the knee. It bounces up off his knee, and the rule is, obviously, it's almost impossible for a player to fully be able to work out where a deflection is going to take the ball, and therefore it cannot possibly be a deliberate handball. It was checked by VAR, as every penalty is. The decision was, it's still a penalty. Thoughts?
It's weird, right? Because we were done here, but I'm glad we were. Because this sounds really weird.
I've never seen you like this before.
No, because
you almost got some sort of Buddha-like oneness. You seem to take life and death as it comes, and you're making peace with it, Jay.
Eventually get to an age in your life, Joe, where you
50 what?
Give up.
6.
You know, you've lived through 2 world wars. You've seen it all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You've got through rationing.
You were there when Mandela went to prison.
I was there when he got out. And, proof that prison works. He's never reoffended. And I think that you get to that stage where you're like, you know what? I can live with a just terrible decision. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all right.
Yeah.
Like, no, the reason that I'm being philosophical about this one, because you know me better than anyone, Joe.
Yeah.
Other than, my lady friend and several members of my family. I got to go to the new camp because of this. I got to experience a very pleasant evening watching Manchester United play very well against Barcelona. And then I got a very good night at Old Trafford against a good Barcelona team where we won. And those were 2 great nights. And we wouldn't have had them if the referees hadn't been a load of incompetent, useless, and possibly corrupt muppets. So I'm glad they're terrible at their job.
Okay. So in this particular instance, you're saying something good came out of it for me.
Yep. And Manchester United Football Club, because our record against Barcelona was shocking.
Yeah.
And our record against Barcelona is slightly better now.
What are your thoughts on the decision itself, though?
Oh, I was raging at the time.
Yeah.
Raging. Like, one of those ones where I have to delete the Twitter app off my phone for a bit before I get myself cancelled. Because it's like, I'm so annoyed. Yeah. I also felt like this was slightly, at the time, a bit of a wake-up call for Eriksen, because despite the fact we were beaten by a penalty that shouldn't be given, I think he overestimated at the time how many changes he could make. He made quite a few changes for that game, and I think he thought he could get away with it. And it wasn't a great performance by Manchester United, regardless of the fact we were robbed. And I think he thought, actually, maybe I've got to stick with my strongest 11 a bit more. Yep. And he kind of did that. Not completely, but if you notice, for the next sort of several months, we tended to have our strongest team, or there or thereabouts. Yeah. There was some good that came of it, but at the time, I was livid. Because it was like, we should be beating Sociedad at home. It wasn't great, but we did enough to at least get a draw. And it was
clearly against the rules.
Yeah, and it's you know what, obvious. Like, I don't mind if a referee doesn't see something. Yeah. Like, you can have a point where your view's obstructed or whatever, or, it's a 50-50, it can go either way. But when you misinterpret the rules you've been briefed on, when you don't understand them, then that's just unacceptable. So yeah, it was shambolic, but it was a shambles I can live with.
Yeah. Before we carry on, we've got loads to get through. Reading, Palace, all sorts. We're going to hear a little word from our sponsors over at Beer 52, who have so gratefully sponsored this podcast. This show is brought to you by Beer 52. Manchester United have just won the League Cup, and if you ask me, that is cause for celebration. And what better way to celebrate than by getting a free case of beer? All you have to do is go to beer52.com/paddock to get a free case of beer. Simply pay £5.95 postage, and they will send you all of this for free. Now, I've been a Beer 52 member for ages, and every single month I love it because they just send me amazing beers from around the world. And this month is a very special month indeed, because we are getting beers from independent breweries from no other than our home Manchester, yeah? All the way from incredible world-renowned breweries like Cloudwater to some small craft beer pioneers like Seven Brothers and Moberly Brewhouse as well. There's no denying that Manchester is a beer city united by great brews. As you can see here, this is the Cloudwater Fuzzy, a delicious 4.2% pale ale. Just going to get a little bit of this bad boy going into the Stretford Paddock glass there. Can't be that. Oh, the sound of a can of beer opening. There's nothing quite like it. Give that a bad boy go. I'm getting crisp. I'm getting quaffable. I'm getting a smooth, delicious mouthfeel. That's actually gorgeous. And you can have all of this by going to beer52.com/paddock. It's no wonder that Cloudwater is rated as one of the top 10 breweries in the world by Rate Beer. You can also learn about these breweries and Manchester's iconic beer scene with the ever-insightful Ferment magazine, produced in collaboration with Manchester's beer magazine, Pellicle, as you can see right there. It's a little crossover this month, yeah? They offer all sorts of things, dark beer, light beer. If dark beer isn't your thing, choose the light beer only case. It's customizable. And there's also a couple of delicious snacks every single month to enjoy with your beer as well. And after all that, if you're not satisfied, if you're not happy, you can just pause or cancel whenever you want. You can't even ask for more than that, can you? So go to beer52.com/paddock to get your free case of beer. That is beer52.com/paddock to get your free case of beer. Now back to the show. Make sure you check out Beer52 for a free case of beer, like we just said. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. The link to that is in the description. It's also in the chat. Have a little look. Just have a look, because they do all sorts of great stuff. Right, let's move on. We've got a few super chats, then I want to get into more of these refereeing decisions. And I think maybe the conclusion we'll come to isn't necessarily that United we're biased against, or there's some conspiracy against us. Maybe it's just the standard of refereeing and potentially the system as it stands at the moment. But we'll get into some conclusions a little bit later on. Mank Mike says the Reds... not that bothers me, sorry, it's not that the Reds that bother me, it's the lack of consistency in decision-making, refereeing that has been an absolute joke. Thanks for all the content, lads, up the paddock. Thank you very much. VAR should be normal speed only. Slow-mo is just unrealistic. I certainly think when what we saw yesterday, when Anthony Taylor went to the screen, if what we saw on telly was the same as what he was seeing, which it typically is, isn't it? You see them start the feed at the same time. He only saw slow-mo. He arrived at the screen at a still of Casemiro's foot on their player's leg. And then from then on out, he only saw slow-mo footage. And I think, pardon me, that can really make the difference when it comes to is something done with intent or not. Because obviously the offside rule has got so much the word deliberate sort of smattered throughout it. Slow motion adds an element
the handball rule.
Oh, sorry, the handball rule. Pardon me. Yeah, it's got so much of the word deliberate throughout it that slow mowing things gives you more time for, or it tricks your brain into thinking they had time to decide whether to move their arm out the way or not. I do think, particularly for handballs, slow motion makes no sense whatsoever. Because, like I said, if it's deliberate, it's a handball. If it's not, it's not. Giving someone an extra half a second or a second to react could be all the difference there, couldn't it?
No, it could be. I've been with you. I'm against the slow-mo. I think it does make everything look worse. Also, as well, when you slow things down, you don't sometimes if someone's running full pace and they get a slight knock, it can send you flying. Yeah. If you've got, say, like Garnacho, and I know Garnacho can throw himself about a bit, but Garnacho or Rashford or anyone sort of pelting it down the wing, and then you give him a little touch, a little nudge. So you're flying. Now you slow it down, it just looks like, oh well, they've made a meal of that. So it can work both ways. Yeah. It can make some things look worse and some things not as bad as they are. Yeah. Where if you actually show it in full pace, you go, actually, well, he was flying there. Yeah. So any little touch is going to send him literally flying. Yeah. So no, I think that it should be see it in normal time, and I think personally you should see it in normal time and watch it like 3 times, and then that's it. Yeah. If you can't see 3 views of different angles, you can't make a decision, then stick with the decision you've made on the field. Yeah, I think you're overthinking it then, and you're looking for something that maybe isn't obvious or isn't there. So yeah, I would agree with that. I think normal time. Also as well, I hate this spending 3 or 4 minutes with VAR decisions. It's too long. Like, it infuriates me when I'm at home or I'm here watching it on the telly, but at least there you can see the replays, you've got some idea where this is going. Yeah. When you're at the game, it's horrible. Like, you don't know what's going on, you don't know whether the decision's going to go one way or the other. It stops me, it spoils my enjoyment of certain goals. Mm-hmm. I go back to the Chelsea, this is how bad it is, this is how long ago it's been going on. When we beat Frank Lampard's Chelsea 4-0 on the opening day, which was like 4 years ago, whatever, when they first brought in VAR.
Dan James's debut and all that.
Yeah, and I remember there was a goal where I think Marcus scored. Now he's well onside when you watch it back, but at the time, because I was so used to VAR, and I think this might have made it 3 or 4-0. I didn't celebrate like the basic goal that put the game out of Chelsea's reach, because there was a little part of my brain thinking, is this going to get pulled back?
Yeah.
Because I was half expecting it. Now, it wasn't, and you look back and you go, Jay, what are you on about? He's well onside. But when I was there at the game, and because of what had been going on, it was almost like I'd been sort of trained to think, oh, there might be a VAR.
Well, that's what it gets like, innit? And that's what I'm like watching the games. And it's not just United fans. It's
you did
seems
it.
to
Do
me
you
all
remember?
fans.
There was a game me and you were on a watch-along for, and I remember you didn't celebrate when I did. And you went, no, it's a handball. Or you called it, you said something, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
But that sort of muted your celebration. And you were like, no.
That happens all the time. That happens with every goal.
I'm not knocking you, because I've done it.
Especially any ball that is played through. So, like, especially like if you think of like United sort of counter-attacking goals, any counter-attacking goal you think, there's a chance this is offside. 2 of our goals against Arsenal, I didn't really celebrate because I think it was Eriksen for one where he was clean through and then he squared it to Rashford, didn't he? And one where Rashford just got played straight in. I thought, I don't know if this is offside. I feel like it's going to get pulled back. And it just annoys me that you can't celebrate properly because, like, and I'm not saying this with any sympathy, but for instance, Sterling's goal for City against Tottenham, which is probably, in terms of where it is in a game and how crucial it is one of the cruelest VAR overturn. I loved it and I wanted it to happen, but that was one of the cruel. Was it Champions League semi-final? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last kick of the game to put
I
City
think it was
through.
the quarters, wasn't it?
The quarter-final.
Yeah.
Last kick of the game, because the semi was Ajax.
Yeah.
To put City through, and it gets overturned by an offside 2 passes ago, or whatever it was. Rightly so. But you just think, that's taken away. You either celebrate and get absolutely mugged off and feel like an idiot and feel even more pissed off, or you don't celebrate and you miss the chance to celebrate going through a quarter-final or a semi-final or a final of a cup competition because you don't believe what you're seeing because something 2 minutes ago or 20 seconds ago is going to overturn it.
I go back to 99. You look at when Sedi scores his equaliser, the first thing he does, he looks all across the line.
Yeah.
If you look when he runs away to celebrate, he looks, linesman's flag's down, he celebrates. We all go, we're already going berserk. No one's waiting to, I was like smashing up the pub I was in with my mates. And then...
You were already doing that before the game started,
yeah,
weren't you?
So just like, like not wrecking it literally, but just like everything, chairs and pint pots and everything was flying around. But then United obviously get that goal. Straight away we're on it. Back to the centre circle. Let's get a winner. We get one. Nowadays, VAR takes 3 minutes to decide what's going on. Maybe they try and argue that his shoelace offside or whatever. He was onside. The goal's probably given, but the momentum's gone. Yeah. It's been killed, and we're almost at full time now. Like we've used up all this time. That game would
almost certainly have gone to extra time if VAR.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Because we wouldn't have that. Like Bayern Munich immediately went. Like they were winded by that.
Yeah.
They were, oh my god.
Was it Sammy Kafur on the floor crying?
Yeah, but even after the first goal, they were stunned.
They were,
and we took advantage of that.
They'd been the best team in that game for literally 90 minutes.
They were
and for the 91st and 93rd minute, they were second best, and we scored those 2 goals then. No, you're right. So there's that element, and listen, we do laugh at City, and it was hilarious and all the rest of it, but it's horrible, and you're spot on, and it's VAR was meant to make things fair, and it's making things less fair, and it's taking the enjoyment out of the game. Yeah. And I know it's been said before, and I agree with it. The game didn't need more controversy, and that's what we're getting from it. And now you're like, you're waiting. VAR. What's VAR going to do? Is VAR going to find us who's on VAR as a new thing? Yeah. Which it's not just which is the ref who I don't like, who's in the middle of the pitch, who's sat watching the monitors. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Let's move on to our next case study here, because this is how I like to think. I like to see this is some sort of scientific paper that we're putting together here, Jay. It's not just a podcast. Yeah. This is a thesis of sorts.
Thesis.
Second up, for your deliberation, would be Figure 2. United 3, Reading 1. Yeah. Okay? A game that became, I think, actually by the end, a bit of a nasty game. Certainly Carroll was leading the way on that. Yeah. FA Cup, this is the one where Andy Carroll injures Christian Eriksen. Yeah. Bad tackle, really bad tackle. Andy Carroll, you see the tackle there. Andy Carroll Christian Eriksen hasn't played since. Ankle ligament injury, hasn't played since, and we're looking at almost sort of 3 months on now, I believe, from that game. dangerous, careless, reckless, out of control, whatever word you want to use. He didn't even get a yellow card for it. Now, he went on to get sent off later on.
For two more yellows.
For two more yellows,
sorry.
But the fact that that's allowed to happen and diving in, injuring players, not even a booking. You just think, what is the purpose of VAR? Is it to just rule out goals because it's funny? Is it to protect players? Is it to make the rules be adhered to? Because it doesn't seem like that's what's happening, does it?
No, I mean, the only thing VAR seems to get involved in most of the time is stopping Marcus Rashford getting goals when it comes to Manchester United. Andy Carroll, he should have been sent off early doors. He was running around deliberately trying to foul people. Yeah. That's what he was doing. I've never rated Andy Carroll when he was in his prime. He's shit footballer, and he's even worse now. And he should have retired years ago. And he was running around just two-footing people. Yeah. Some people claiming it's because he's a Geordie and he wanted to get people injured for the cup final. I don't know about that. I don't know if he's got the brains to think that far ahead. But he was definitely lost his head and was trying to foul and hurt
luckily
people.
For him, it worked.
Yeah.
Because we, famously went on to lose to Newcastle in that League Cup final.
Exactly. So well done, Andy Carroll. Yeah. I hope you enjoy your winner's medal. But it was just like, he was deliberately trying to foul people and hurt people and was getting away with it. And then eventually he gets sent off. But by that time, Christian Eriksen's season's all but over. Yeah. And this is a guy that died not long ago on a pitch. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's have it right. The kid had to be brought back to life. And we're just letting thugs run around boot him without doing anything about it. I'm not saying that he's like, because he had a heart attack, we can't go near him. You can tackle him. But we're just saying, you can two-foot him and we'll just allow it. Yeah. Like, how is that okay? It's awful refereeing. Yeah. And you know what happened, right? Erik ten Hag rightly says it's a disgrace. And you've got them muppets on TalkSport going, he needs to stop whinging. Yeah, let's just stop whinging. He's only a player out for the season. Yeah. Let's not worry about it. Let's just let players go around kicking 7 bells out of our team and let's not say anything about it. Get a grip. It was disgusting. And I can't believe that he got away with it. I can't believe he ended up getting 2 yellows and a red. After that, people
have noticed you've left your zen mode.
It lasted for 12 minutes. I gave it a go, but I'm sorry. I'm just not that guy, really.
Let's move on then to Palace. This is the one where Casemiro gets sent off for what looked from some angles to be 2 arms around the throat of, was it Will Hughes? Yeah. But then there's other angles, which I don't think we have, where it looks like he's got his shirt and he's sort of... To be fair, if you raise 2 arms to someone's throat, I can see why a red card is given. The problem is, Fred also had 2 arms around his throat during that I think it was Fred, wasn't it? During that altercation. Yeah. There's a Palace player who is strangling Fred, who doesn't get noticed, who doesn't get seen. So the problem is, you're always going to have, the way it currently stands, this highlights another issue for me with VAR is, it isn't ruling out human error, because none of it is done entirely automatically. Yeah. If offsides were automated, you just put, an algorithm tells you whether it's offside or not, fine. Yeah. If stuff like, it would be much harder to do an algorithm for those sorts of things. But then you almost think, well, then don't have VAR for that. Because unless it's an absolutely blatant dive or whatever, then VAR is still just coming down to personal opinion. Obviously, if someone sticks their leg out, there's no contact whatsoever, I understand overturning the penalty there. But if there's some contact, but people go, is it enough contact? No, you can't have that, because instances like this where fully sort of red cardable offences are totally missed because we're still trusting a human eye to analyse this footage. It doesn't make sense. You're just allowing for a different set of human error problems, whereas... offsides, I can understand it. Get the lines drawn on automatically. I think Wenger said about 2 years ago, within the next year we'll have automatic offsides. That hasn't happened.
Wenger said a lot of things.
We're just allowing for a different type of human error here, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with VAR with these types of fouls, like you pointed out, is the inconsistency. We saw it. Fred was getting strangled. There was an incident at Arsenal around the same time. I think Saliba did the same thing to someone else. Yeah. Didn't get a red card. No. There's no consistency there. Like, you can look at that picture of Casemiro and go, it looks like a red to me, that one. Fine. Then you're sending off half the Premier League. Because things like that going all the time. Him and Will Hughes were hugging and laughing after that. Yeah. That's how seriously Will Hughes thought it was. So I think you have to have a level of consistency. And you have to go, if there's a bit of a melee where everyone's getting at it with each other, unless there's a blatant punch in the face or something, right, just leave it. But when you go in, right, okay, he's had his hand around his throat. Well, what about him then?
Yeah.
So
we didn't see that one. Sorry, we missed that.
Well, why? Look at it all. Watch it all. And how long's that going to take? It's untenable. So, yeah, that was the issue with the Casemiro one against Palace. It was that. And also, what infuriated me in that game, more than that, I think this was the one where Sabitzer
one,
came on, makes a perfectly good tackle and sends us on a counter-attack. And I think is this Andre Mariner again, the referee for this one. It was in the VAR room for the game against Southampton. Mariner annoyed me anyway, because for the penalty, it's right in front of him. It's the most blatant handball you will ever see in your life, and he doesn't give it.
Yeah.
What I loved about this as well is Marcus Rashford ran over to him. You can see him on the footage saying, "I promise you, ref, it's a pen."
Yeah.
Like that. Well, that proves that then. We don't need VAR.
Sort of then.
Marcus Rashford feeds kids and he's told me it's a pen. It's a pen. But it was. But he had to go to VAR to see it when it was right in front of him. Which also goes back to the thing, a ref's letting things go, waiting for VAR to do it for him.
Well, that's the annoying thing. So if we talk about the Sabitzer one, you've got on one hand, and Steve said this before VAR came in, or around the time VAR came in, about what it's done to rugby league, where it allows referees to have this safety net, so they don't make decisions.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to have this sort of I know we know the names of them, but you're not seeing the referee in the box in the VAR room.
Yeah.
You allow the sort of the heat to be put on this faceless VAR ref across the country somewhere, and take it off yourself by not calling it. You know, I know obviously Anthony Taylor's got some stick from yesterday, but a lot of it is the VAR people that have got the stick, because we gave a yellow card. So it encourages referees to not be decisive, to not make decisions, to let things go that they know is wrong, or to not give decisions that they know are wrong, because they'll get helped out by their little VAR safety net.
We saw it at the Newcastle Wolves game. Nick Pope takes out your man Jimenez, and the referee's pointing to his earpiece, going, nothing. Well, you've seen it right in front of you. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got the situation where VAR going, well, the ref's seen it. Is it clear and obvious? Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
And you've just got these referees union all sort of sticking together, which is just not good
funnily enough, Dermot Gallagher actually said the Pope one should have been a penalty. Newcastle should have been given,
and he's hardly,
Wolves should have been given a penalty.
Mr. Anti-Newcastle ever.
No.
It's you've got that. So he's saying that if he'd have been in the VAR room, then presumably he'd have given it.
Yep.
The referee was right in front of him. Like, I know he was some distance away, but he's in his eye. He's looking at where it's happening, because where the ball is, not where the ball was though when he makes the challenge. He just takes him out, and he's not given a penalty and a red card. And that has repercussions, because then we're going up against Newcastle in a couple of weeks' time, and they've not got Nick Pope again, which gives us a boost. Yeah. Because we're going to go there without Casemiro, which gives them an advantage.
We've got a couple of people in the comments. No Toes is one of them, saying, how about limiting VAR reviews like in tennis, X amount for each side? They do the same thing in cricket. The thing I don't like is, in tennis, you get this, almost every single match point is contested. Because why not? It's the last throw of the dice, you might as well. I think every goal is contested. Yeah. Because why not? You might, trying to get, it'll either be penalties or goals and nothing else. Yeah. Because let's say it's 1-1, they score in the last minute, you're going to contest it every single time. So as home fans, or not home fans, the team who scored fans, that this is going to be contested, because goals are so much more important in football and so much rarer than a point or a ball or a wicket is in cricket. There's 20 wickets in a game of Test cricket per team. There's dozens, hundreds of points in a game of tennis. There are 1, 2, 3 goals in a game of football. So every single goal is getting contested every single time. Like, I don't think that works because of the nature of football. It doesn't make sense. The things you are contesting are so much less frequent in football than they are in every other sport. To me, that doesn't work because, like I said, every goal's getting contested just by default. What do you reckon?
No, I agree with what you said then. I think he would. He just allowed you... Where does the contestant come from? Is it the captain? Is it the manager? How's that work? It might just get a bit silly. I just think we've got to get better referees. Like Andre Mariner... against Palace, and we won against Palace, so it'd be easy for me to say we didn't matter, we won. And also we weathered the storm of Casemiro's sending off, which wasn't really his fault if the VAR said to him, look at it, and the way it looked. I don't blame him for that. But it was genuinely one of the worst performances I've ever seen by a referee in my life. And then a month later, whenever it is, he's in the VAR room making decisions about Manchester United. He shouldn't have been anywhere near Premier League games after that. In fact, he shouldn't have even been demoted. He should have been sent for training. Because I don't even like this idea we demote referees to the Championship when they're terrible. It's like the Championship doesn't matter. Your club can cease to exist if results go the wrong way against it in the Championship.
Yeah.
We've seen clubs go under who've been relegated from the Championship, and clubs like who've been promoted or survived, go on to thrive. So it's obviously vital to those clubs, and I don't think we should say, well, your club matters less than ours. It's not fair. So I think if you're having a stinker and you view it and you go, he got so many things wrong, send him away for some training. Yeah. Don't just go demote him or put him in the VAR room next time. It amazes me that Andre Marino's been involved in Manchester United games because he was so bad for that Palace game. The Sabitzer tackle, which is such a clean tackle, and it was a counter-attack and that could have killed the game off. It was one of the, again, I know I sound like I'm being melodramatic, but it was such a bad decision. Yeah. It was so bad. I remember watching at the time thinking, how was he called that a foul? And when I watched it on a replay, it made me even more angry. And I just feel like, and then you find out on the weekend, it's him again in the VAR. Why? Why have you taken an incompetent ref and put him in a room to stop being an incompetent ref on the football pitch, and now he's going to be an incompetent ref in front of a video screen? The guy's just not up to the job at all.
And this is another one. It's a bit of a. This isn't on the official list that we've got.
Okay.
But just one that I was grateful for at the time, but it makes you question how the rules are implemented in football. Man United versus Liverpool. We conceded 6 goals in the second half.
Yeah.
There were injuries, there were substitutions, like multiple substitutions, all sorts of stuff. There was 4 minutes of stoppage time at the end of that game. Yeah. And part of you thinks it was 9, or maybe even 3 or 4 anyway.
Someone's talking about this the day when one of the refs came out and said he shouldn't have done that, the ref.
Yeah, and part of you thinks, thank you. You're sparing United playing an extra 4 or 5 minutes of an embarrassing, horrendous game. I get it. But then you think, your job as a ref isn't sympathy for the losing team.
No.
Like, why have you dropped 4 minutes off it?
What about the weekend? In the first half, you had that VAR, the Casemiro's in the first half.
Yeah, the red card.
Right, the red card. You had that handball decision they didn't give that sent everyone doolally. Yeah. And that went on for about a minute and a half. Yeah. People kicking off. You had substitution as well, and Regulus wasn't quick coming off because he was rowing with the referee. He had to get dragged away at one point before he got sent off, before he got subbed. And yet he gave 1 minute.
1 minute.
How that doesn't add up.
The second half, where equally fuck all happened, was 4 minutes.
Yeah, it's just like, it's a default setting sometimes. Like, it's the first half, I'll give a minute because I just want to get in. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then the crowd are against me, I need to kill this game off.
We want a bit of drama at the end. Yeah. So let's put 4 minutes
in. It was nonsense. There's no way on God's earth you should go through it. Because you remember in the World Cup, one of the good things in the World Cup was we had all these added times of 9 minutes, 10 minutes, and people going, oh, what's going on? But then it was like, well, actually that's fair. Yeah. If you watch a game of football, the average game of football, I think it's 20 odd minutes. Or 30 odd minutes it might be, sorry. Where there's actual football being played. There should be far more.
The Newcastle games, it's about 4.5 minutes.
Yeah. There should be more added on than there is. Yeah. And yet, people saying actually that's a good thing because, you want to see football, not just complete time wasting or, the ball's out of play and it's not getting added on or whatever. And yet we've not seen that since the World Cup. We haven't.
Well, one thing, Nathan Ellington, who's obviously played hundreds of league football matches, played in the Premier League, scored goals in the Premier League, was part of, I think, the highest points total ever in the Championship when he was at Reading. He was saying he thinks you should do a stop clock. However, that would then mean make games 70 minutes long. But every single time the ball goes out, the clock stops and there is no stoppage time. So you've got exactly 70 minutes, or work it out so the players aren't playing 30 extra minutes every single game. But you stop it. So it's not up to the discretion of the referees. And that way, I think you get a lot of backlash with that. But you are ensuring then that the game is being played for the right amount of time every single time.
It's like on the weekend. And fair play to him, listen, I don't blame him. He does what he's got to do. The kid goes off for the... we get a goal kick. And your man for Southampton is off the pitch. He walks onto the pitch and falls down. Yeah. Gets medical attention because he's on death's door. Right? We added four added minutes. This is in 2 minutes into it, right? He gets up then after this medical attention and we have another 30 seconds and that's the end of the game. Yeah. That's not fair. No. I mean, he's made it work. I don't blame him.
Yeah, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Should we move on?
Go on.
Barcelona 2, Manchester United 2 in the new camp.
Yeah.
Rashford through on goal, or one-on-one sort of with his man, Koundé, knocks the ball past him, gets past him, Koundé runs across him, blocks him, takes him out, nothing given.
Ridiculous.
Like,
awful decision.
I still can't believe that when I watch it.
Well, I can't, because it's Barcelona referees, isn't it? We all know what they're like.
Do you think?
I don't think it's necessarily the referees took a backhander. Yeah. I think he's been intimidated by the Nou Camp atmosphere and thought, I'll get away with not giving this.
Because it's a red card as well, that's the thing. It was probably,
do you remember
probably outside the box,
when
but it's a red.
Under Fergie in his last season, when we played Real Madrid in the Bernabeu, and Ramos took out Evra, and that was a red card in like one of the last minutes.
No, I don't remember that.
And he didn't give it. People don't. No. He didn't give it. And it was a blatant red card, and Evra was through. I'm pretty sure it was Evra. I know he's like, what's his left back? What's he doing getting that far forward? But I'm pretty sure it was. Didn't give it because he thought it's easier for me not to give this than it is for me to give it. There's more controversy and drama if I give this. Yeah. So he bottled it, and I think that's what happened in the Nou Camp. I think he just bottled it. I think he just thought, if I give this, I'm going to get in all sorts of mither from these fans, and it's going to upset the crowd, and it's going to be on me for the rest of the game. I'm just going to allow it.
RD Man, I don't know if it's Roadman or Redman, 07, who's been a member for 18 months, says, get rid of VAR is like saying get rid of the goals because your striker keeps missing. Keep VAR, get rid of the current crop of useless, abysmal refs. I've got two views on that. Firstly, I think get better referees.
Yeah.
And I think if we've got better referees, we don't need VAR. So I think do both. Get rid of it to stop that I can't celebrate goals feeling, which you would still get with good referees because they're not going to catch everything. And secondly, get better refs. Pay them more.
I don't understand why
this
argument, like, you can't get better refs. Can you imagine going United, like, under Moyes in 2014 or whatever, and going, these players, some of them passed it, not good enough, but we're stuck with them forever. Yeah, we can't get any new players in.
Can't get new ones. And also,
or we can't get younger players, from the academy or train them, or we can't go and buy players that are better or bring in any better players. This is it forever now. We're stuck with these players. No, you get better players in when you need to. Yeah. It's the same with refs. There's lots of good refs, right? And I've seen them at lower league levels who are mint. They are genuinely very good. They can handle players. They can keep it calm. They get some stick. They know how to handle it. They're fit, physically fit. They're not plodding around looking like they've just smoked 40 B&H and had 5 pints of Stella. And they know what they're doing. Now, there are referees out there. You just got to go and get them. Get them, train them, and get them in the Premier League because the standard's shocking.
Genuinely, what I think, and we've spoken about this before, but I'd like to go over it again. I think pay them more. Yeah. But don't just pay them a bit more, pay them way more. Right. Because when you think of all the people who work at the FA and how much some of these people get, hundreds of thousands a year, I don't know the salaries of everyone who works at the FA or the Premier League, but I know there are a lot of people working for FIFA, working for UEFA, who are on millions a year, not just a few grand. People lament refs for getting 100 grand a year, whatever they get, which is a lot of money, puts you in the top 4% of earners. Great wage, don't get me wrong. But one of the reasons that football went the way it did, got rid of the drinking culture, sports science, you monitor everything you eat, everything you breathe, everything you touch, they stop smoking, they stop boozing, is because you went from getting money where great wages for a player to generational life-changing wages when the Premier League came in. And that was the initial catalyst for everyone going, fucking hell, we better start taking ice baths here. Rather than going to the pub afterwards, let's get in the cryogenic tank. And American football, or soccer, US football, is a great example of that, because you look at the wealth of the country, you look at how many people there are there, you look at the facilities available to them. The only reason MLS isn't the best league in the world is because they don't get paid as much as NBA players, as NFL players, as baseball players. If they did, no country in the world can match the number of people and the facilities available that US have. But if you're a top level athlete in America, you will not play soccer because it doesn't benefit you the way playing basketball does or playing in the NFL does. It's the same with referees here. If you're a great referee, yes, there's a level of reason to go into it, but there are people who would much rather use that analytical brain or that vision to be coaches, to work in analysis, to work in banks, or to work wherever. The sort of skill sets you need to be a ref aren't rewarded heavily enough for it to be worth the shit you get.
No,
I think refs need to get paid 200 grand a year, 300 grand a year. Like, they are such a huge part of football, and they are paid a 50th of what the players get. And obviously they shouldn't be on the same as players, but I think that when you think how much they can influence a game and season and the way trophies are awarded, they need to be paid in the ballpark of a lesser player, because otherwise you're just going to get people using these skill sets of analysis, of vision, of this or that, to get jobs that are higher paying with less sort of public scrutiny, and I don't see any other way around it.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think the people, there'll be some people going, oh, if you pay him more and you make a bad decision, people are going to use the wages to beat him with a stick. With people give him a stick anyway. That's not going to make much difference. It's not like people are going to go, well, he was on 100 grand, now he's on 200 grand. That's made it worse. That's, it's irrelevant. But I agree. I think you need to motivate some people to go into refereeing.
Yeah.
I think far too often you've just got little Tory bully victims being refs who can't wait to dish out cards and blow the whistle.
Wasn't Tory bully victims one of your bands growing up?
Yeah, we had a difficult second album.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah.
What was the second album? Weak, wasn't it? To quote, was it Tony Blair? Okay, what was it? Michael, what's his name?
Michael what?
What's the leader of the Tory party called?
Michael Howard?
Yes. That was your Michael Howard's mother of invention, wasn't it?
Michael Howard's mother of invention was our second album and it bombed.
We've got a few super chats. What?
Michael Howard's in the chat, that's amazing.
My cat was laid by my car tyre. It doesn't mean that I've run him over. VAR is beyond laughable. Interesting.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
Quite sort of metaphysical, that one.
Yeah, but it's true, innit?
Yeah.
Like, if you look at a still of that, you go, my man's ran that over.
Yeah.
And the cat just gets up and walks off, he's fine.
Yeah.
Stills, do you remember the bits of stamp?
Yeah, that was
where you looked at a still and it's like he stamps on his leg, but he actually touches his leg and then pulls out.
Yeah.
But if you stop it at that split second, it looks like a stamp. And no doubt if Andre Mariner was in charge, they would have done. But it's not. And there's a bit of context there.
Yeah.
If you play that in real time, you'll see actually he pulls out. It's not the foul that's been made to be.
Club 1878 says Joe appears as the kind of bloke who gives himself a maniacal grin, high five after a solid session of copulation. And that's a compliment.
A solid session of copulation?
I haven't had one of those in a long time.
Wasn't that the name of your band? A solid session of copulation.
It was actually.
Yeah.
It was actually population copulation. We were a two-piece. Terrible days. Sam Z says that Nick Pope rammed Jimenez inside the box. It was the most Stonewall penalty and red card you can ever see, but VAR didn't see anything.
Who said
that? Sam Z. I mean, we spoke about it, but it was
well
ridiculous.
said, that man.
Yeah. Andrew A said the issue is that VAR has to actively say the on-field ref is wrong. It should be more like rugby, where they work together to get the correct call. I agree with that. Naz says VAR for Casemiro, but not a single VAR check for United. Perhaps they can't allow another United 10-point lead on the Scousers. Interesting. Abdul Ibrahim says, I would like to see the referees respected so that more would want to try it. Who is the best ref in the Prem and who is the best ref in the world? I don't even know, to be honest.
The trouble with the referees in the Prem, you know the refs for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You know who Michael Oliver is. You know who Andy Taylor is.
Yeah.
You know who Andre Mariner is. Not because they're mint.
No.
Because you think they're terrible.
The thing with refs, though, what I will say in their defence is, it's like, if you think that goalkeepers, I would say, of all the positions on the pitch, have the most opportunity to scrutinise them and the least opportunities to praise them.
Yeah.
Because to praise a goalie, they have to do an amazing save or save a penalty and also not make any mistakes in that game.
Yeah.
A referee, it is literally almost impossible for someone to go, by the way, did you notice the referee had an incredible game today? And it's so easy for them to get criticised.
It's weird because I don't blame Anthony Taylor as much as I blame Andre Mariner this weekend. I think Anthony Taylor, the Casemiro red card, he's more or less got to give that. Once he's called over.
Yeah, I mean, he's given a yellow card. I think he got it right.
What he's shown.
Yeah.
The penalty, I think he's made a mistake there, and I think he should have signalled a penalty there. But if he hasn't, VAR should have done his job, should have helped him. Should have said, look, Andy, I think you need to look at this again, because we've looked at it in slow-mo and you can see it's at his arm. But they didn't, which is a mistake there again. So, and also, there was a few little, like, the added time he got wrong, right? It wasn't perfect as well, but I think out of the two of them, Mariner was worse. So, yeah, I just feel like there's some refs that okay.
Yeah.
There's some that you probably don't even know, or you don't remember, or you don't think of that much. But there's some who've just got a reputation where you literally go, when you find out it's them, you go, oh, God.
Here we go.
Oh, him. No.
Ten Hag's son says they already get paid 200k a year. that is a tiny, tiny fraction of the most elite refs that get paid. Yeah. For the whole thing to change, you need refs at Championship, at League One, at League Two, at Conference, at North and South, at local level, to all get paid more. Because that's like saying, well, Ronaldo gets paid £1 million a week because he's at in Saudi Arabia, but that doesn't mean someone at Conference gets paid that. Yeah. The very high end of the high end refs that are doing Champions League, World Cup, FA Cup, this, that, and the other every single week. Yeah. They get that kind of money. But I think to encourage, a massive amount more referees into the game, then I think that has to come down the leagues as well as the top end. So yeah, good point.
I know we're sort of short of time. We could have gone into more. There was the 3-1 against Villa where Andy Taylor again moved the wall back.
And that was wrong. They were always like 15 yards away from us.
Just keep moving back until Lucas Digne's happy with it. Yeah, that was ridiculous. I think there was the Betis game. The goal should have been chalked off for a handball. But before we wrap up, give us your Wally of the week.
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, it'd be. I don't want to almost sort of give it the tap in and say VAR, but actually, no, I'll say the BBC.
I think sometimes there are tap-ins there. Yeah. And Tim Davies at the BBC, Tim Davies at the BBC, complete, absolute Tory whopper.
Yeah, how they've handled that Gary Lineker situation.
It couldn't have been handled any worse. And I saw him doing interviews. He says, I think we've handled it well. And I hate to see you saying handled it badly.
What would handling it badly have looked like?
Do you know what I mean? Exactly. It's like
Piers Morgan presenting Match of the Day by himself naked. That would have been what everyone expected. So the fact that we actually had one of the longest running sports shows in the world presented and commentated on by nobody, that was actually a pretty decent result because someone compared the language around a policy to a country in the 30s. He didn't say X is a Nazi, Y is a Nazi. No. He said the language around this is similar to this.
Which some, other... we've had, not everyone agrees with it, I'm not saying they do, but we've had Holocaust survivors who've said there is a similarity there. Yeah. We've had professors of German history who say it. Not everyone, I grant you, but then there's also the inconsistency where you've got Alan Sugar can post a picture of Jeremy Corbyn next to Hitler and still stay on the air. Yeah. So there's no consistency there. Tim Davies, or whatever his name is, who's saying, we've handled this really well. It's just, the mind boggles, doesn't it? It's like you say, how worse could it have gone? Yeah. It's like, JFK's trip to Dallas, it went really well. Yeah. Other than the fact he got his brains blown out, it's fine.
But we got him back.
Yeah, he had a lovely drive around the city. People forget about the lovely drive he had before that happened. Yeah. But what are you on about?
Top down, sun on his face.
Yeah, lovely, with his wife. Perfect. Yeah. Like, bro, it couldn't have been any worse. You need to go. Richard Sharp needs to go. He's facilitating loads. Boris Johnson. They're all corrupt Tories. That's my thought on the matter.
And Ben777 says, 500,000 more views than last weekend on Match of the Day. If you think for a second that if we continued to have no commentary and no punditry on Match of the Day, those views would even stay a tenth of that, then you're absolutely deluded.
I would not have watched Match of the Day had it been the normal Match of the Day, because United weren't on. I've got no interest in watching teams that I don't like winning. I watched it to see what was going on. Yeah. There was more attention to that Match of the Day than there's ever been for any programme on the BBC ever. Yeah. And
a lot of us, Morecambe and Wise Christmas special.
That was quality, that wasn't it? Good. Bring me sunshine. I think me and you are the Morecambe and Wise of the YouTube world.
We need a bed in here, don't we?
We do. And it meant how they used to lie in bed next to each other and no one thought anything of it.
I know.
Like, it's just like, look at the lads.
The boys, eh? Hey? Looking at not doing anything sinister.
On that bombshell, listen, thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments in the chat. Much appreciated. There's a members video. If you're not going to check it out, make sure you are. Yeah. I'll talk about David De Gea. Also, big thanks to Beer 52 for sponsoring this podcast.
The link is still in the comments there, so check that out. The link is also in the description. Check out Beer 52 for a free crate of beer. What more can you ask?
What more can you ask? Joe, where can people find you?
Sloppy Joe's podcast, new episode out on Friday and a new one coming out tomorrow as well.
Oh, he's smashing it. You can find me on Scotty Motty. There's no Scotty Motty this week. We'll be back next week, though. I know. We will be back next week. Apologies for that. We'll be back next week. Don't worry. We're going to double up next week as well, so you'll get your full fill there. That's been Joe. I've been Jay. This has been the Paddock Podcast. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.